Okay, and we're on.
Ron, hey, late night from Willowdale, our pre-impeachment special. Um, uh, as they say, it's beginning to look a lot like impeachment. Uh, it's Trump's Christmas gift to the world. Um, so I'm wearing my "Make America Great Again" T-shirt in honor of Trump's impending impeachment on Wednesday or midweek, whenever it happens. Um, so uh, the Judiciary Committee uh, uh, sent the two articles of impeachment: abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. Right, those are the two. Right, abuse of
Yes,
power
they are, sir. Yes.
and obstruction of Congress. Um, and they sent them to the House for an historic vote next Wednesday. So Trump will be the third American president impeached uh, in the history of the United States. So yeah, it's going to be an historic day. Um, Trump, the two articles of impeachment are abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. Trump should have been, as David Leonard writes in the New York Times last Monday actually. He says, Trump deserves at least 8 counts, and I'm not going to go through them all. But he says he includes obstruction of justice, which I think should have been included. I mean, Mueller cited in his report a number of incidents of obstruction of justice. I think that should have been included in the articles of impeachment. At the day after Robert Mueller testified before Congress, the day after, Trump was on that famous phone call with the president of Ukraine, with President Zelensky of Ukraine, and where the shakedown occurred. So Trump didn't learn anything from the Mueller report. The reason David Leonard talks about a number of other things that should have been included: acceptance of emoluments, how he's profiting for the presidency, basically, corruption of elections, gross and abuse of pardons, conduct grossly incompatible with the presidency. There were a number. I mean, Trump has gotten away. The reason I think Trump needs the stain of impeachment was because Trump has gotten away with crap all his life. Okay, ripping off charities, the Trump University scandal, this fake university, ripping off contractors, small business people, not paying people, and the guy never had to pay a price for it, and he's probably the most corrupt person to ever become president of the United States. And he got away with everything. He always got away with it. And now he is finally being held to account. Yes, he'll be acquitted in the Senate and he'll remain president. But the stain of impeachment will be on him. And if anyone deserves it more, it's him. Bill Clinton really, the stain, the Monica Lewinsky stain, or the stain of Monica Lewinsky on the Clinton presidency. Bill Clinton did not deserve to be impeached for lying about a sexual affair, a consensual sexual affair. He didn't deserve to be impeached for that. Yet there were no high crimes and misdemeanors, sleaziness, unethical, whatever. But he didn't deserve to be impeached for that, for the little fling with Monica Lewinsky. He lied to the grand jury, and I get all that. Censor would have been definitely more appropriate in Bill Clinton's case. But Trump deserves to be impeached. He abused power. We don't have to go over it. He tried to shake down a foreign leader and withhold military aid that had been approved by Congress, so he could get dirt on a political opponent, Joe Biden and his son. So yes, Trump deserves to have this stain on his presidency. He's gotten away with everything all his life. He's gotten away with tons of crap during his presidency that he's not even being impeached on, as David Leonard notes. So he deserves to be impeached, and he will be acquitted in the Senate, and he will continue to govern. I hope he's a wounded president going into election year. So Wednesday or midweek, whenever it happens, will be historic. So yeah, Andrew Johnson. Even they say Andrew Johnson was a horrible president. I don't know why Lincoln ever picked him to be his VP. But they say even Andrew Johnson didn't deserve to be impeached. But Andrew Johnson was impeached. Uh, uh, Richard Nixon resigned before he was impeached. Richard Nixon resigned before he was impeached, and Bill Clinton was impeached. So so Trump will be the third American president who will suffer impeachment. And that will happen midweek. So we'll see what happens. But he definitely deserves it. Like I said, he's gotten away with so much all his life. He's screwed so many people over, and he's finally being held to account, and he deserves it. So let's turn to something else that's, I'm not a big fan of Christmas. I don't understand why people get so worked up about one day of the year and spend money they don't have. I think it's bad. Christmas is bad for the environment, and people travel all over the place, and it causes so much stress. And of course, it causes stress on our medical system, because people are going in and out of hospitals because they're so stressed and develop all sorts of illnesses around Christmas. Never been a fan of Christmas, and I said it's very bad for the environment in terms of all these gifts, people giving gifts to people who don't need them, and all this stuff. We've done videos on this before, but one gift that I think you should give at Christmas is an atlas. Okay, an atlas. All right, knowledge of geography, like the Times Atlas of the World, Britannica Atlas. Atlases are important. I've got tons of them. I even have my old high school atlas still here, and which I use. The Canadian Oxford School Atlas. I have globes all around me, here, there, everywhere, atlases. Knowledge of geography is really important to understand the world and what's going on in the world. Okay, and I say this because a couple of weeks ago, the New York Times, in the travel section, made a mistake. They said that Whistler was in the Canadian Rockies. And of course, Whistler is not in the Canadian Rockies. Whistler is in the Coast Mountains, which is on the Pacific Coast. Okay, I said a correction, and I don't know if it was ever corrected. But Whistler, the New York Times in the travel section said that Whistler was in the Canadian Rockies. Whistler is in the Coast Mountains, which are on the Pacific Coast. The Canadian Rockies are about 600 miles and a number of mountain ranges to the east of Whistler. Okay, the Canadian Rockies straddle the Alberta-British Columbia border. There are a number of mountain ranges between Calgary and Vancouver. Okay, the Rockies are just the first, and then you have the Purcells and the Monachees and the Selkirks, and there's the Cascade and Caribou ranges. There are a number of mountain ranges in British Columbia. And I learned this basically. I just never forget this in grade, when I was in geography in grade 11 and 12 at my old high school. I had a high school teacher that was fanatic about this. And I remember flying to Vancouver on a high school trip on a beautiful day. We crossed the whole country, across the Great Lakes, across Winnipeg, Regina, Calgary. Then we hit the Rockies. And I was sitting beside my high school teacher, and and he said, he was so excited. He said, "The Western Cordillera! We've hit the Western Cordillera," which is the range of mountains that spans, goes from the Alberta border to the Pacific Coast. And he drilled into us that there are a number of mountain ranges between Calgary and Vancouver. So yeah, the New York Times should not have made that mistake. That's a gross mistake. Whistler is in the Coast Mountains, not the Canadian Rockies. The Rockies are 600 miles to the east. Basic knowledge of geography is important to understand the world. Here, Donald Trump is most likely going to be impeached midweek because of Ukraine, and how he handled President Zelensky. And most Americans still can't find Ukraine on a map. Okay, they don't know where it is. There's been lots of polls on this. So that's ridiculous. Here, the president's being impeached because of a country that most Americans can't even find on a map. The ignorance of, and I'm not just, it's just not Americans who are quite ignorant about geography. Canadians, lots of people around the world are ignorant of geography. Basic knowledge of geography is really important. Clea and I were just talking about Turkey. A lot of people think that, Turkey, a lot of people think that in Turkey they speak Arabic. Well, they don't. They speak Turkish. It's a Turkic country. A lot. I remember even the famous journalist Bob Woodward thought that Iran was an Arab country. No, Iran is a Persian country, and they speak Farsi. And basic knowledge of this. We were just talking about the Uighurs in northwest China who are being persecuted by the Chinese. The Uighurs are part Turkic, part Chinese. They're a mixed. Totally, it's their history. They're really Central Asia, They're more Central Asian people than they are Chinese people. It's important to know basic things of geography. For instance, I hate it when they say that Libya and for instance Libya often and Libya, Algeria, whatever is in the Middle East. No, Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, Libya are North African countries. They're not part of the Middle East. They're Arab countries, but they're North African countries. The Middle East is basically Egypt to Iran. Egypt is a North African country, but it's also a Middle Eastern country. And I always like that word, the Near East, actually, as opposed to the Middle East. Iran is a Middle Eastern country, but it's really a Central Asian country, and Turkey is a bit of everything. Turkey's a European country, a Middle Eastern country, and a Central Asian country. So just basic geography, knowledge of geography, and knowledge of where places are is important. Like I was just saying, I'm belaboring this, but I'm saying that a good atlas is a good Christmas gift. If you're gonna waste money on Christmas, buy an atlas for a friend.
I need one. If you're in a
buy
giving
you
spirit.
an atlas, actually.
Yeah, I know you did. You did buy me one,
Yeah,
but
you can always take an atlas from here. I got lots of them. Anyways, just the other day with this volcanic explosion off New Zealand, White Island, or I forget the Maori name, but I wanted to know where that was. I didn't even have to consult an atlas because all the news shows were showing exactly where it was off the coast of northern New Zealand. So, but yeah, as soon as I heard it, where is that? I never heard of that before, and I was curious. So, I didn't have to consult an atlas because the news reports were all showing the maps and everything. So I didn't. But if something happens and I don't know where it is, I immediately consult an atlas. If there's like in the U.S., if there's a gun shooting in the U.S. and some small town, I like to know where it is. I have my North America Rand McNally Almanac. I immediately look up my map of U.S. states to find exactly where it was. So basic knowledge of geography, and I'm sorry I'm belaboring this, but that's an important, that'd be a great Christmas gift. And just remember, the President of the United States most likely be impeached on Wednesday because of a country that most Americans can't find on a map of the world. So there you have it. What else did I want to talk about? And I said I was going to do 10 minutes, but I've already rambled on here. Trudeau, Justin Bieber Trudeau. He was caught on that tape gossiping with other world leaders. He's got to really watch he's got to mind his P's and Q's. He's really got to watch it that, people are always watching him. And yeah, he got blamed. The Dutch Prime Minister and Boris Johnson and Princess Anne and Amal and President Macron of France, they were all there laughing about Trump. Trudeau got blamed for it. It wasn't quite fair. They're all having a good joke at Trump's expense. And Trudeau sort of got blamed for it, and it's a bit of a tempest in the teapot. But Trudeau's really got to watch it, when he's on the world stage. And sometimes I just don't. Sometimes he doesn't take the job seriously. He's just. And I agree with Trump. He's two-faced. He's not that bright. I agree with Donald Trump on that. And what were you saying? He's a whiny, gossipy little bitch, right?
Yeah, I
think that's what he is. He's a whiny, gossipy little bitch.
Sorry, Justin. I didn't
Sorry,
mean
Justin,
it.
but that's what you are. And I agree with a conservative member who stood up in the House last week and said, please stay home. Or was it this week? I can't remember. She pleaded with Trudeau, stay home and stop embarrassing us on the world stage. You know what I mean? And I agree with that. Trudeau, stay at home. There's enough problems here. Stay at home and stop embarrassing us. On NAFTA, USMCA, YMCA, USMCA, NAFTA 2.0. It's not a great agreement, but it's not a bad agreement, and no trade agreement's going to be perfect, and you're never going to get the perfect deal. And I do think the NDP should support it. The labor unions in the United States are supporting it. A lot of labor unions in Canada are supporting it. And the NDP, if you ever want to be the governing party, you got to show that you can govern. And this is a trade agreement that you should support. It's an improved agreement. There are lots of things for workers' rights, environmental rights. It's a trade agreement worth supporting. No trade agreement's going to be perfect. Okay, so Jagmeet Singh said today, well, he hasn't made a decision, but he sees positive things in it. And yes, Jagmeet Singh, you definitely should support this trade agreement. The NDP should support it, and so should the other parties. There's never going to be a perfect trade agreement, but Canada needs trade agreements, and because we're a trading nation, and we need to have trade agreements. On the Uyghurs, we'll talk about that in another video. Horrible what the Chinese are doing to them. Nobody wants to stand up to China because they're so powerful, but at some point we have to stand up to China. They can't. What's going on in northwest China is with the Uyghurs is Nazism. Let's face it, people are being put in concentration camps, and a lot of them are dying there. It might not be extermination in the sense of what the Nazis did, but people are dying in those concentration camps. There's abuse, there's neglect, there's all sorts of things happening, and people are dying. And the world should not stand by where the Uyghurs are wiped out. China's got to be held to account. More on that another late night from Willowdale. But pay attention to what's going on with the Uyghurs in northwest China. And in terms of the British election, Brexit is stupid. It's definitely going to go through. I generally like countries to stay together. I don't like countries breaking up. I don't think Catalonia should split from Spain. I certainly don't think Quebec should split from Canada. I generally like multi-ethnic, multi-faceted federations. But I tell you, if Britain is going to make such a stupid move and leave the European Union, which is one of the most successful political experiments in the modern era, then I understand why Scotland would want to leave. Scotland wants to be part of the European Union. And I can see why, and that's a secession that I would almost support. Horrible if it came to be, the undoing of the United Kingdom, but Scotland wants to be part of a regulated, rules-based, progressive union like the European Union. Yes, it has its problems, and doesn't want to be inward, and doesn't want to turn inward, which good chunks of Britain seem to want to do. Then I understand why Scotland would want to separate. And I generally don't support that sort of thing, but I understand it. And I do believe in Irish reunification. Maybe this is a good idea to have Irish reunification, have the North and the South join up. Because a lot of people in Northern Ireland want to be part of the European Union. So, we'll see how it pans out. It's not going to be an easy. It's not going to be an easy on Britain once they leave. It's going to be a bit of a mess. And if the Brits think they're going to get a trade agreement with the United States right away, they can forget it. Do you know how hard it is to deal with the United States under Donald Trump? Look how hard it was to renegotiate NAFTA. And look how hard it was for Canada to negotiate the trade agreement with the European Union. These things are, Britain's in for a tough slog. Anyways, I was happy to see Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party wiped out. Corbyn was a wishy-washy, kind of, in my opinion, a whack job, a lefty whack job, with no realistic program. And I was happy that the Labour Party, I'm happy he's leaving, and I'm happy the Labour Party was wiped out, and the Labour's got to get a better leader, and wishy-washy. The Labour Party didn't know Brexit. They were for Brexit. They were against Brexit. You got to have they should have had a solid position being against Brexit. That would have been a progressive position, and the Labour Party should have adopted that. And they were wishy-washy, and they were wiped out. And I'm sorry the Liberal Democrats didn't do better. But and I don't think Boris Johnson's he's not Donald Trump. Yeah, he's a bit of a clown. He's buffoonish. A lot of people say you can't trust what he says, but he's not stupid. He's well educated, and I don't think he's Donald Trump, and I think he's smarter and savvier than we give him, and we'll see what he does. Anyways, that's it. That went on longer. I'm sorry, but buy an atlas as a Christmas gift for people, and thank you, Donald Trump, for your impending impeachment, and that's the best Christmas gift we could get.
Okay.
That's